PNM wanted to hide the changes made to the boundaries, and it was at that time that the UNC again questioned whether the PNM had intentions of postponing the local government election, because the EBC report on the local boundaries are usually brought before a local government election, and a local government election was due in December of 2022. And it appears that the PNM had all intentions of postponing the election and therefore did not see the priority or the need for haste to bring the EBC report. So when Faris Alwari, Minister of Local Government and Rural Development, by an announcement to the media, extended the term of local government representatives, he essentially postponed the local government election by 1 year. We in the UNC maintained at that time till today that it was improper, it was illegal, and it was against the principles of democracy. Today, we have a ruling from the 18th of May by the Privy Council that proves that the UNC was right. Democracy and the rule of law must prevail. The opposition in any democracy are the guardians of democracy and must hold the government accountable. This is the PNM's mess, and they now have to come to the parliament to ask the parliament to clean up the mess that they have made. I have continued to hear utterances from the Prime Minister and other members of government that this is no constitutional crisis, because the PNM did not put local government in the constitution to have that protection, even whether it is part of the constitution or not. Let us not split hairs. The fact is that by postponing the local government elections or any election, you go against the principles of democracy. And it appears that, there's a ploy for the PNM to fatten the pockets of their financiers and their friends who are lawyers to make legal issues and get interpretations from them. The fact is, the Privy Council determined that the PNM was wrong. The government cannot simply decide who your local government representative should be. It is for the people to decide. And to deny the people the opportunity to vote is wrong in terms of democracy. Had the UNC not made a hue and cry about it, the country would not have known that the PNM was wrong. So I asked this morning, who is unpatriotic now? Who is unpatriotic for denying citizens the right to choose their local government representatives? Who is unpatriotic for standing up for Trinidad and Tobago? Who is unpatriotic for going to the Privy Council to protect the interests of democracy? It is in the interest of democracy and in the interest of justice and the rule of law that the UNC stood in protection of our citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. And they must be commended for this act of patriotism. To the PNM, this is your mess. The Privy Council have ruled. You were wrong. Stop making excuses and trying to explain the matters in your own way. The Privy Council has ruled, and yet we continue to have all these excuses from the PNM. If you so believe that you were right, if you so believe that the Privy Council was wrong, if you so believe that the opposition is making mischief, if your name man, don't go to the parliament tomorrow. Stay home. Pull away that bill that you want to extend the term of office of local government representatives. If you so believe you are right. But the fact is you are wrong. This is your mess. The Privy Council is the last court of appeal for Trinidad and Tobago. And we must respect that. And so the PNM is wrong and they must fix the problem. Part of the PNM's problem is that they are paying to get legal opinions that favor their political agenda. So when you pay the piper and you get a tune that is suitable to yourself and the rest of the world knows it is wrong, it is wrong. You must accept the Privy Council decision. This is your mess, you have lost. The UNC told you that your decision to extend the local government term and postpone local government election was illegal. Accept it and move on. And stop trying to make excuses. Stop trying to blame the UNC. Stop trying to blame the Privy Council. What we have done in the UNC, what we have done in the opposition, led by the Honorable Kamla Persad-Bissessar, is to protect democracy in Trinidad and Tobago. The decision of the PNM was invalid. And because you did not listen, you have created a mess that you now have to come to the Parliament to correct retroactively. For the PNM, patriotism is a buzzword. Their saying is great is the PNM and it shall prevail. It is about the greatness of the PNM, not the greatness of Trinidad and Tobago, not the greatness of democracy, and not patriotism. For we in the UNC, patriotism is not a buzzword. It is a principle by which we live and that we are willing to stand up for and act on. And I'm grateful as a citizen of Trinidad and Tobago and a patriot that the leader of opposition and attorney at law Anand Ram Logan and others took this matter all the way to the Privy Council to ensure that we in Trinidad and Tobago have the opportunity to vote. It is clear why the PNM would want to postpone an election, any election, local or general, because the PNM is afraid to face the polls, and rightly so for them, because they know that the electorate is dissatisfied. We are living in fear in Trinidad and Tobago. Crime is rampant. We have murders going up. The numbers have skyrocketed. Crime and violence, home invasions, robberies, car theft, many businesses being robbed. It's causing all of us to live in fear. It is affecting our economy because people are afraid to invest. It is affecting the businesses because many of them are closing down because the cost to protect their business is so much, and they are saying no to the PNM. Food prices have skyrocketed while salaries remain stagnant or increased by 4%. My colleague, Mr. Anderson, will talk a little bit more about that. But certainly when we go out as elected representatives and we meet families who wake up on mornings and don't have food to eat, don't know what to feed their children, it affects children going to school. The school dropout rate has increased because there are many who take their children out of school or are unable to send their children to school because they have to help with the income in the household. And the government has failed to provide for the most vulnerable in our society. In our schools, there is so much chaos. Schools are falling apart. There's so much uncertainty, and the quality of education for our children is being affected. Our young people do not have opportunities. They do not have jobs. And all of these are reasons why the PNM are afraid to face the electorate, because they have created a mess. And now the citizens are anxiously awaiting the opportunity to vote. And whether it is a local or a general election, the PNM knows that the people are going to vote them out. So we are in a situation where we have deteriorating infrastructure all around us, bridges collapsing, entire roadways being compromised because of landslips, flooding in several parts of the country, and no action by the government, or very little work. We have many in our society who are willing to vote for the first time because they want to get rid of the PNM. And I say to you, citizens, this is your opportunity. When we in the opposition go to the Parliament on Monday to participate in this bill, we hope that the Prime Minister will name the date for election if he name man. Call the election and let people vote and let the voices of the people be heard, because the PNM has proven themselves to be incompetent at local and at the central government level. And so I call on citizens to stay tuned for the election date so that you can vote. We in the UNC are prepared for local government elections. In fact, we have been prepared since the elections were due in December of 2022. And we know that there are seats that the PNM have right now that the UNC will win. And the PNM is afraid because they know it as well. There are many areas in local government where the PNM has failed. Our UNC representatives in local government have been on the ground and with the people. And we will continue to represent while the PNM has very little to show in terms of local government. At this time, you will hear the PNM coming to you to tell you their achievements in local government. Well, let me tell you, they have been inventing achievements because they don't have any. Recently, they came to the Parliament, the debate is still ongoing, to create 2 new boroughs. A superficial name change that doesn't give the borough of Superior or the borough of Diego Martin any additional powers or resources. It is just a name change, but something they will hold up on the platform to say we have an achievement. In 2019, the PNM promised 100 municipal police officers to every corporation. That is a total of 1,400. They have failed to do that in the time frame that they promised us they would do. And now they are coming to tell us they hired about 500. That is a failure. You have failed to hire the 1,400 municipal officers that you promised to hire. Another achievement they are claiming to have is that they have hired litter prevention wardens. Well, hello, the UNC had hundreds of litter wardens throughout the country when the UNC was in government. And what happened in 2015 when the PNM took over? They fired the litter wardens. They were outside the Ministry of Local Government protesting because they were fired when government changed. And you had a collapse of the system because the local government corporations rely on litter wardens to patrol and to ticket persons who are offending under the Litter Act and to take those persons to court and ensure that those matters are successful. And when you had that breakdown and a pile up of garbage all over the country, the PNM now realizes that they need litter prevention wardens, so they are going to hire litter wardens. And this is not an achievement. You cannot provide a plaster for a sore that you created and then call it an achievement. So better than that, Minister of Local Government, Faris Alwari, will be at pains to try to tell the country what he has achieved under local government. He promised to roll out local government reform. He postponed the local government elections for that purpose. And to date, nothing has taken place in the line of local government reform. 5 months later, he promised a schedule of rollout activities. To date, we don't even have a schedule, much less a rollout activity. Corporations have been deprived of funding to do even their basic responsibilities. And you are attempting to blame the councillors, our local government councillors. PNM councillors are also feeling the strain. Some of them may not speak out publicly, but the fact is that when the government fails in local government, it fails every single citizen. Because the moment you step out of your house, local government issues hit you. Whether it is garbage collection, patching of potholes, or creation of local economic development and sustaining local tourism. The fact is that local government impacts on every citizen because it is the arm of government closest to you. So this morning, I ask that you not be fooled or carried away by the PNM making excuses for their defeat at the Privy Council. They were wrong to postpone the local government elections, and the UNC was right to warn the country and to take legal action. The PNM was afraid to call local government elections because they know that the population is dissatisfied, and you as citizens must vote in the upcoming local government elections to send a signal that Rowley must go, to send a signal that the PNM must go. And this is a local government election, but we must ensure that the UNC is victorious at the polls because the general election is coming. And it might be sooner than 2025 based on the dissatisfaction of the people. But it is a lesson that all of us in Trinidad and Tobago must be vigilant and stand up against the PNM when they try to erode our democracy. We must not be afraid. We must not be intimidated by the PNM attacking us and calling us unpatriotic. Or when they call citizens who stand up, they label them as UNC. The fact is that they will try to intimidate us for pointing out that they are wrong. But the fact is that they are wrong and they have created this mess. We in the opposition look forward to the debate in the Parliament tomorrow, Monday, to hear the PNM's justification and for their bringing this bill to extend the term, and whether they will accept that they were wrong or they will still try to make excuses and try to give us new maths to calculate why they are wrong. But I say to you, stop relying on the piper that you pay. Stop relying on attorneys who give you opinions to suit your own political agenda when the Privy Council have already ruled that you are wrong. Accept that you are wrong. If you name man, accept that you are wrong and call the elections. Thank you.
Thank you very much, MP Amin, for putting forward a clear case and the strongest sense of opinion why the UNC continues to act in defense of the citizens of this country and in defense of the democracy and the rule of law. Because this government continues to wage a sustained war on the working class. A brutal assault continues. And this morning, I want to tell Trinidad and Tobago, because you have heard from my colleague MP Amin, and on behalf of the UNC, whenever the local government elections are called, it is not only about local government. It must be about the overall state of Trinidad and Tobago. This election will give all citizens and workers a chance, a signal to send a clear message, a referendum more or less on the PNM government of Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley. This election is about the over 130,000 workers who have either lost their jobs, they have been laid off, they have been furloughed, and their working hours have been reduced. This election is about the struggles of fathers and mothers, single fathers who are struggling to put 3 square meals on the table, school books in the bags of their children, and lights and water in households, medication in the cupboard. This election is about families who have gone under or experienced unforeseen hardship because of this government and a prime minister who has demonstrated very clearly that he has no care and empathy for the ordinary citizens of the country. And the message must be sent by the workers and their families that the time has arrived now to lay off the government, which has laid off and dismissed over 130,000 workers. This morning, I would want to take the opportunity to provide the UNC's perspective on a number of labor issues that continue to confront the workers and the population of Trinidad and Tobago, namely at Heritage and at Caridoc and also at TSTT, because it has been established and it is in the public domain that the CEO or the designated Chief Executive Officer of Heritage Petroleum Company Limited will receive a compensation package of in excess of $250,000 plus when it is calculated based on bonuses and allowances on top of a base salary of $180,000 per month. And this morning, I want to make it absolutely clear that the UNC has nothing personal against the CEO designate. In fact, we do not know the CEO, the designated CEO, but it is the responsibility of the opposition to pose a number of questions to the board of directors of Heritage Petroleum, headed by a fellow called Michael Kwamina, senior counsel, the personal attorney of the Prime Minister, and the newly minted senior counsel who heads that particular board. And Stuart Young, the minister, this instant, this is a Prime Minister and cabinet who, when questioned and put on the transparency by the UNC and calling for greater accountability and governance and so on, we are continuously being told, don't ask me, I don't know govern Trinidad and Tobago with. And they may well argue that the CEO's compensation package is in line with international standards and benchmarks. But what is important for us is that after the existence of an oil industry in Trinidad and Tobago for approximately 100 years, we have to ask how many Trinidadians and Tobagonians were shortlisted for this interview or this particular job at Heritage Petroleum. Were they shortlisted by the board of directors of Heritage Petroleum? We want to see, or we want to be aware of the list of candidates who were shortlisted and whether the selection of this compensation package was approved by the board of directors led by senior counsel Michael Kwamina, and if not by the board of directors of Heritage Petroleum, was it done by a recruitment agency of local repute or international repute? And indeed, if it was done by a recruitment agency, how much did it cost the taxpayers of Trinidad and Tobago? Because you see, a cushy and a hefty compensation package has been approved. And at the same time, this government continues to spit in the faces of all law enforcement officers and public servants across the board, telling them that this is a gova season. We cannot give you more than 4%. Ban your belly. In fact, the Prime Minister and the Minister of Finance hijacked the collective bargaining process by attempting to negotiate with the recognized majority unions in the public domain, and they continue to insult the workers of this country because they are telling you 4% is good enough for you against a backdrop of food inflation in excess of 20%. I am told that tomatoes have skyrocketed a pound. It has gone up back to approximately $20 per pound. Only yesterday people paid that. The only thing they're obsessed with in terms of local government reform is the imposition of a property tax on an already overburdened population as it relates to the prices of goods and services in the country. And yesterday, the prison officers during their sports day used the opportunity through the sports program to send a message, a very clear message, during their presentations when the prison officers knocked the 4% that they were given by the government of Trinidad and Tobago. And the articles read in today's papers, which says that prisons officers, you chose the Trinidad and Tobago Prison Services Sports and Family Day to voice their satisfaction with the 4% salary increase for 2014 to 2019, which was recently accepted by the Prison Officers Association. So, and in addition to that, we must continue to see the disdain, because if they want to continue the narrative, or they might try to counter-argue that international benchmarks and standards were used in the recruitment of this CEO designate at Heritage Petroleum, I am continuing to ask, where was the international standards and benchmarks on health and safety when Paria, the divers at Paria lost their lives in what